Tonight, Bowman Live, the program that brings you commentary and analysis of today's events and news that has already been reported. And what I do, I kind of bring a twist to it because I like to simplify things because I'm talking to my people. And as a result, we get down to the real nitty gritty here on Tyrone Bowman Live. For those of you that are subscribed to the channel, thank you very much. Now let's get down to the essence of this story. Some time ago, Tyre Nichols, a young 21 or 20-year-old young man, he was savagely beaten and murdered by 5 black Memphis police officers. And they tried to justify the murder by lying and falsifying documents and covering up the crime. There is no alleged in it. They did it. And it was a senseless murder that did not have to happen because they considered themselves to be of the elite squad that has gotten away with just running afoul of the law, destroying people's lives, usurping the constitutional rights of others. I've told you before, I don't care what color you are. There are just as many corrupt black police officers toward their own people who lie and cheat and steal and cover up. According to NBC News, the headline read, former Memphis police officer changes plea to guilty in murder in Tyre Nichols beating death. Famed noted civil rights attorney Ben Crump, who has been handling this case for the entire family, they had a press conference today. I'm going to try to get their press conference, but I'll have to break it up into different segments because it was a pretty long one talking about exactly what happened. First of all, they kept saying that they were innocent from the very beginning. And what did they do? They tried to lie and frame the deceased Tyre Nichols. They didn't care about his family. They didn't care about his mother. And you know what the sad thing about it was? Because one of those now former lying, corrupt, adulterating black police officers thought that Tyre Nichols was involved with his girlfriend. Whew. Stupid. According to NBC News, a second former Memphis police officer changed his plea to guilty on Friday in connection to alleged civil rights violations that ended in the beating death of Tyre Nichols. There is no alleged in it. They did it. They murdered him. Outright murder. And they lied about it. And they couldn't lie about it anymore because the case was falling apart. They didn't get the type of protection that white police officers who commit the same crimes are afforded. Maybe they thought that they were white in disguise. But now they're going to do some serious time, probably up to 40 years. A change of plea for former officer Emmett Martin was entered in the courtroom of U.S. District Judge Mark Norris in Memphis, with prosecutors saying they will ask for a 40-year sentence, and they're going to get close to it. The former police officer pleaded guilty to using excessive force and witness tampering. If you or I had committed a crime, we would have been held accountable from day one. But they covered it up and they hid behind the police badge. Yeah, you know, where they took the oath to protect and serve. They were protecting, all right. They were protecting their asses. They were lying and they were covering up the crimes that they committed. Back in November, another former police officer, Desmond Mills Jr., changed his plea to guilty to federal charges of excessive force and obstruction of justice. The defendant agreed to cooperate with prosecutors and face up to 15 years behind bars. It was good to finally hear him admit the guilt, the victim's mother, Rovon Wells, told reporters outside court. For them to plead guilty is something I feel like we're going the right direction, accepting responsibility. With due respect, they did not accept responsibility. They got caught. They got caught lying. They got caught obstructing. They got caught covering up a crime. And they had no reason but to plead guilty. Because had they gone to trial, they were going to be found guilty. The grieved mother said she recently found an old text message, the last one she ever exchanged with Nichols. She asked him to bring home some red licorice, and her son dutifully said yes. This is very difficult. I have 4 children. One of my kids is gone now because of the Memphis Police Department. Wells said Tyre was just coming home. He was minding his own business, and he was just coming home. The 29-year-old Nicholas died in the hospital several days following a traffic stop on January 7, 2023. Several Memphis police officers were recorded on cameras kicking, punching, and hitting him with a baton. Makes no damn sense. Martin's defense lawyer, Stephen Ross Johnson, said his client is accepting responsibility for his actions. Your client didn't accept responsibility for a damn thing. Your client got caught lying. Your client got caught covering up a crime. Your client got caught obstructing justice. That's what your client got caught doing. Emmett Martin was driven by anger when on January 7, 2023, he admits that he violated Mr. Nichols' civil rights and used excessive force. Johnson said he was driven by fear when he later attempted to cover that up, fear of the consequences of what he had done. BS. He should have admitted from the very inception of the crime that what he did was wrong. And they knew it was wrong, and they didn't care. The other officers, Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, and Justice Smith, have pleaded not guilty to federal and state charges connected to Nicholas, who was black. All 5 officers who are also black were put on administrative leave before they were eventually fired. They were fired because the police commissioner of the Memphis Police Department knew that they were wrong. They were fired because the police commissioner knew they were liars. They knew they covered it up. They knew they senselessly beat Tyre Nichols to death. And then they laughed and they joked about it. And these are black police officers, corrupt, lying, black cops. The dominoes are starting to fall. Family lawyer Ben Crump said, we expect the other officers to also do the same. The killing of Nicholas was among several deadly confrontations in the early 2020s that shined new light on police use of force against black people. His name is often mentioned in the same breath as George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Daunte Wright. Officers reportedly pulled over Nicholas for reckless driving, but Memphis police later said there was no evidence to support a stop. Nicholas fled on foot, and when the officers caught up with him, the young man was just a block away from where his mother and stepfather lived. He was kicked in the head and beaten with batons as he called out for his mother, video showed. Despite extensive video, Crump said he's never confident there will be convictions against police. You know, this is not something we ever take for granted, that officers will be held accountable and sentenced to real prison time for killing black people in America. He said, normally we see a slap on the wrist. It was plain wrong, downright criminal. Never surrender, never quit.